But I'm thrilled to invite Bhavik and Jade from Bazaar Voice up onto the stage. Bazaar Voice is celebrating their 20th anniversary, and I think I was one of the early adopters. It wasn't Ross Simon's, it was Vermont Country Store when I worked there. But Bazaar Voice they are the experts in user-generated content, and they're going to share with you today real live examples. And I will welcome you up to the stage.
But today we'll be talking, as you see on the screen, about building a winning creator strategy. We'll talk about what we mean by creator, we'll talk about what we mean by social commerce. But the goal is for you that are with brands, retailers, or agencies to figure out, you've heard social commerce, you've heard creators and influencers is the way to go, but how can you actually take advantage of that and use that in your day-to-day to then capitalize on things like higher conversion rates, average value, things like that. So excited to talk to you about this in the next 20 minutes or so, and hopefully it'll be a good session. But first, who are we? So my name is Bhavik Gandecha. I manage our solutions consulting team here at Bazaar Voice. If you don't know what solution consulting is, we are the demo experts. So if you've ever been in a sales cycle with a new software company, usually you have the salesperson that dines and wines you and takes you out, and you have the brains behind the operation, which is my team, that says, hey, this is actually how the platform works. That's very easily said, a very blatant way to put it, but we love our job and we love showcasing the value of different solutions, be it at Bazaar Voice or other companies. And I'm excited to present of what we have here at Bazaar Voice, and I'm joined by Jade.
Very nice to meet you all. I'm Jade Simon. I'm a lead client success manager here at Bazaar Voice. I support a portfolio of clients on our global and strategic team, and my goal is to help my clients drive the most ROI out of their businesses. So finding ways for them to optimize what's in contract for their programs and ultimately drive more revenue.
Awesome. So before we dive into the agenda, Jade and I do this across conferences, and we love starting the conversation with a story. Hopefully you guys recognize what's on the screen. Those are Flintstones vitamins. Rewind back 30 years ago, I remember coming down for breakfast, whether it's a glass of milk, cereal, toast, I would always have a grape flavored Flintstones vitamin. Jade mentioned in the break room that it tastes like chalk. I loved it.
They do.
Hopefully you guys can relate though. But why I bring this up is, 30 years ago, how did my mom know that Flintstones vitamins was the way to go? She either heard it from her friend, from a cousin, from someone out there that, hey, your son should take these. And I remember for so many years I would take them. There was no Instagram, there was no Vine, there was no social media, yet she knew that this was something good for her or good for their child. Why I bring that story up is fast forward 30 years now in this world of creator economy, social commerce. Now you have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all these different channels to then capitalize on and ensure that you are making your clients aware of what your product is and how they can actually buy that product. And so we'll talk about a few examples. You'll see Tom's and Nick's up there, and Jade will talk about her clients and how they've helped them. But hopefully, at the end of this presentation, you'll be like this young gentleman here. And now when you hear social commerce or influencers or creators, you'll be much more excited and enjoying like he is, versus just being like, okay, yeah, that's something I need, or my boss said I need.
So who are we at Bazaar Voice? Well, we are a full funnel content engine. We support over 13,000 brands and retailers, and we help them collect, display, and distribute UGC to over 2.5 billion shoppers monthly. And we help do this across all digital shopping channels. We can also help you source content from your own customers or allow you to tap into our communities of everyday shoppers and creators and influencers, ensuring a steady stream of quality, diverse content that converts.
Awesome. So set the stage. We have 4 parts that we're going to go through. The first is going to be the tidal wave of social commerce. Some of you might be asking, what is social commerce? So Jade, how would you define social commerce?
I like to think about social commerce as a way to shop media on any digital platform. Just because I discover a product on Instagram doesn't mean I have to jump out of the funnel, Google search the product, find it on a PDP, and then convert. I should be able to shop that product and have a seamless click-to-cart experience.
Awesome, thank you. And so we'll talk about what that means, what that tidal wave is, then how do creator and influencer content come into play for that? And then we'll go into some campaigns that we've seen success partnering with Bazaar Voice. And at the end, I'll ask for permission just to pitch a little about what Bazaar Voice does and our newest solution. And of course, you can come to our booth to talk more if that is of interest. I see a few of you with your phones on. You can scan that QR code because a lot of the research that we'll show is from our Shopper Experience Index, which have a community of over 9 million members where we can tap into hyper-target and ask research questions. So even if you need research questions for your specific products or your performance at retail, we can do that work on your behalf. So let's jump right in. Social commerce, as Jay defined, is the ability to shop for products, whether it be on your PDP, your homepage, or at retail. And hopefully this chart on the slide is from eMarketer is not surprising. You see, obviously, it's going to the right. But the social commerce space is almost $100 billion plus market. And what that means is people, individuals like you and I, like your different customers, are buying more and more products online to the point where you see in 2024, it was at 100 million. And now if you project it all the way to 2028, it's almost going to go to about 150 million just dollars spent off of social products. That's quite amazing. And then we look at across the funnel. If you're a marketer, you might say the funnel doesn't exist. We would disagree. We say the funnel exists, but it's no longer linear. And what I mean by that is there are so many touch points. I think the average touch point a consumer gets is 8 different touch points, whether that's SMS, WhatsApp, Instagram, email, add to cart, contextual commerce. And so the ability for a consumer to interact with your brand or retail is so vast. And so you'll notice that when we go from awareness all the way down to advocacy, as the years go on, people are focusing more and more on that social side. So yeah, SMS is great. Yes, email is great. But now I want to be reached out on Instagram, or I want to be reached out on TikTok to then make that path to purchase.
Yeah, and on this next slide here, we've broken out the sway of social commerce by age bucket. I'm guilty of being part of that 55% in the second bucket there. But I think what you'll find most surprising about this chart is when you look at the 45 and up age groups, they're pacing close to the younger age groups and in some cases outpacing them. And I think that's really interesting because brands and retailers can sometimes neglect their core consumer if they are at an older age group when it comes to social. And this actually happened to a recent client of mine, so just wanted to share an anecdote about that. So they were investing really heavily into Gen Z. This is the new target market that they wanted to go after. They are allocating all their budgets to Gen Z influencers and creators. And when they looked back at the sales and conversion data, it wasn't so great. And what they found was that it's still their core consumer making up the bulk of the purchases. And this was a woman in her 40s to early 60s. And so they pivoted and they started investing more in Gen X influencers. They started creating more educational content that resonated with their core consumer. And this resulted in significant engagement and revenue lifts. So just want to make sure that while Gen Z is important, they are the future as well as the generations after them. Don't neglect your core and know that all generations and all consumers are leaning into social.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the influencer space and how those affect your shopper journeys. I'd love to get a little bit of audience participation, maybe by a show of hands. So there's 3 options here. When we talk about the influencer marketing space, usually your boss or your VP or CMO may have come to you and say, hey, we have to invest in influencer marketing. We need the next viral video. And so when you think about that for your specific brand, what is most important of these 3? How many would you say, number one, that it's important from a strategic budget perspective that now you have to take some of your marketing budget or your product budget and now put it into influencer marketing? Does anyone feel like that's important to them? Maybe a few hands. What about the second one where now you need content across an omni-channel approach, like PDPs, retail, brick and mortar, right? Maybe even some SMS, email marketing
2
campaigns.
hands in the front.
All right, and then what about the last one, where now it's a full funnel approach? A few more hands, right? Going all the way from awareness to advocacy. So I know, it didn't seem like the first one was important, but we see across the board when you look at different brands and retailers, they are focused on this full funnel, omni-channel approach, where now they have additional spend or maybe less spend that they would on their retail media networks or they have on their agency plays, and now they have to focus on this influencer strategy. And so what does that mean? When we look about how creators are spending money or how we are spending money with creators, again, similar to what Jade said, you'll notice that even going from over 65 to the Gen Z of 18 to 24, at least 7 out of 10 shoppers are saying that they have interacted with influencer content when buying stuff. So it's that Gen Z influencer or it's a boomer influencer that's on, showcasing the products they use. All of this is affecting your consumers, and they're helping them for their path to purchase.
Yeah, and just like how creators come in all different shapes and sizes, and we have an affinity for certain creators and maybe not for others, similar to creators, we as ingestors of content also come in all different forms. So we wanted to give you a little bit of an inside look into how consumers affiliate on these channels and create content. So we have 3 buckets here for types of consumers. We have the passive group. I and Bhavik, admittedly, are part of this group. And so we're maybe consuming content, we're reading reviews, we're looking at social posts, but we're maybe not creating that content on our own. And then we have the reactive group. This group, when asked by brands or retailers about their product experience, are willing to share their opinions. So they'll write a review, they'll post on social, but usually only if prompted to. And then we have the proactive group. So this is comprised of a lot of content creators and influencers, and they're actively seeking out opportunities to generate content for brands and retailers. So what we found from our latest Shopper Experience Index report was that 28% were passive, 54% were reactive, and 14% were proactive. So I think it's not a surprise that the majority of people are proactive. That tends to be a niche in the community. But it is saying something that over half of shoppers are willing to provide their feedback if they're simply asked to. So think about what type you are. And then pivoting a little bit back to Gen Z, we wanted to really highlight the influence that creators have on Gen Z purchases. So we know that we all buy items from social media, but Gen Z in particular is heavily influenced by creators and influencer content. For them, social is the new storefront, and they really trust influencer content. They see it as peer-to-peer versus traditional advertising. So it's really impactful for them. And the smart brands and retailers are making partnerships with influencers that add value to their brand and align with their brand messaging. They're not just chasing after the A-list celebrity that will get them the most reach. And I think e.l.f. Beauty, if you're familiar with them, is a really great example of this. Gen Z is their target consumer, and they recently were a first mover in making an influencer partnership on the platform Twitch. If you're not familiar with Twitch, it's a gaming platform. Gen Z spends more time gaming than any other digital platform. So they were really strategic in researching their consumer, finding out where they were, and then partnering with an influencer that could not only give them the reach on a platform like Twitch, but also generate content for their other platforms like their social media, their site, retail, etc. So again, one piece of content can go a lot further, and it's really critical that you're reaching your consumers where they are.
Awesome. So I'd love to take a deeper dive in, you being a lead client success manager and the different success stories you've seen. So I know there's a lot of clients that you work with on the screen here. We'd love to focus on a few, one being Tums and Nix. So I'll take the Tums and I'll pass it to Jay to talk about Nix. And why we like highlighting these different clients is Tums, I talked about vitamins in the beginning. How many of you knew that Tums actually has gummies? Anyone? Did anyone know that? Yeah? I took Tums last night after we went out for dinner. I definitely needed it. I did not take the gummies, but I wish I'd seen this post earlier. But Tums was looking for a specific niche market. So we mentioned that we have a community of 9 million members that we can tap into. They look for females 21 to 39 that are located in the United States and that have digestive issues. So we hyper-targeted for them. And from that, we reached out to these individuals, sent them a custom box with this product, and you see some of the stats that we got. Almost 500 reviews came out from that specific product, almost 120 TikTok posts, so individuals are posting about this content. There's a sample here on Instagram as well of someone posting their product. And then the last two are quite impressive. Earned media value, if you don't know what that means, it's basically if you were to go out and create this content with an agency or one of your tech partners, that's how much it would cost to create this content. And I can assure you that Bazaar Voice, to do that with us, it's a fraction of that cost, right? And then ultimately, what you all care about and what I care about as well as a consumer is, will I buy this product again? And so 93%, almost 10 out of 10 individuals said that after trying this product, they would buy that product again. So it's quite impressive. And again, they just sent out 500 samples to these females and ultimately got so many different metrics away from that.
Awesome. And then highlighting another industry, NYX Cosmetics, which is actually a brand I have the privilege of working with, launched a couple of new lip gloss shades last year in 2024. And they strategically partnered with Bazaar Voice to find creators that were closely tied with their brand and that could also lean into this shimmer trend on TikTok. So we wanted to highlight a couple key metrics from a very specific creator, Malika Narab, whose post went viral within just a few days, completely organically without any paid boosting. So this post reached 500,000 views organically. It achieved nearly 100,000 likes and had an impressive 28.42% engagement rate. And what's so awesome is through Bazaar Voice, NYX was able to leverage this creator content through their visual syndication program. So they took this content further and beyond posting it on social, they also have the usage rights to push this content out to other digital channels.
Awesome. So we talked about thus far the what, the how, and a little bit about the why, but we'd love to show you how we do that and how we can help these different brands and retailers achieve this type of success. Before I do, just to set the stage, we talked to so many different brands and retailers. There's about 13,000 brands and retailers that are part of the Bazaar Voice network. And when we talk to them talking about our different solutions, there's usually 3 problems that they faced. One is speed and time to market, right? You have a new product launch or you want to introduce to yourself to a new retailer. Sometimes it's hard to get that product out quickly or it's hard to get that awareness. The second is disconnected workflows. I'm sure all of you in your day jobs, we actually talked to a CMO recently. She said when a product launches all the way to going to legal and finance, there's 71 different workflows and tools that her team uses. That's insane. Now, I'm not saying we're going to solve and make 71 into one, but what if we could take 5 of your solutions or 5 of your workflows and make it into one singular solution? And then lastly, accountability, right? Your boss is always going to say, how do I prove the ROI of any solution that we take? Through Bazaar Voice, and you'll notice through our solution as we talk about it, you'll be able to go all the way from awareness to advocacy and figure out the conversion of each piece of content, creator, and individual piece of product, all the way from where it's on social and then all to your website. And so hopefully, by the time you're partnering with Bazaar Voice, you'll be able to see solutions where now you're going at speed and scale, you're able to have those seamless workflows, and of course, you're able to prove that ROI. And so what is this solution? This is what we're called Bazaar Voice Vibe. And so Jade will talk a little bit about what Bazaar Voice Vibe is, but that's why I have this shirt on where I'm here for the vibe. Right? Bazaar Voice Vibe is, and I'll let Jade talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so what is Vibe? I like to explain Vibe as a simple analogy. We know that Disney is a powerhouse, so they bought ESPN, they bought Hulu, and they, of course, own Disney+. You can purchase each of the solutions individually, or you can combine them for significant added value. So Bazaar Voice kind of did a similar thing. A couple years ago, we acquired a company called Influencer, which is a community of 9 million everyday shoppers. We acquired Curate, which is a powerful social commerce platform. And then we also acquired recently Affable AI, which is a creator marketing platform. So this has allowed us to bring them together into one unified platform, allowing you to source content from different types of everyday shoppers and creators and influencers, manage usage rights for all this content, have it stored and organized in one place, and then distribute it to all of your digital and shopping channels with a single click of a button. And what I also want to say is it doesn't stop there. So you can see on the slide here, we also have full funnel reporting that we've recently released. So from the time a shopper is inspired by a piece of content that they saw on social, and you're measuring the reach and the engagement and the clicks with it, you can measure it all the way through to purchase, how that piece of content performed when that shopper ultimately converts. So revenue tracking, click-throughs, conversion lifts, et cetera.
Awesome. So with 1 minute left, we'd love to leave you with 3 commerce next steps. So the first being, we are the UGC expert, but you are the customer expert. You know how your customers shop, the ideal profile, what they like, what they don't like. And so let us provide the UGC feedback and support, but of course we'll rely on you to know your customer and figure out what is actually going to work for them. And of course we can test and learn.
Yeah, and then second, make sure that you're building a diverse and authentic community beyond creators from your niche. Make sure to have a healthy mix of content. So you don't need just branded content on your site. Showcase that everyday UGC. and lean into creators and influencers and relevant trends.
And last but not least, succeed but fail fast, right? We want you all to succeed, but if you're not, reiterate, optimize. A solution like Vibe can be your partner when it goes from all the way to awareness to advocacy to ensure that you're finding the creators, as Jade mentioned, that matter. It's not just branded content, it's ensuring that your product will be used and utilized by the masses. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.